today's episode of the Apocalypse Cooking Channel. I need to be honest here. You know, I feel like we've gotten a little bit off track. I am guilty. I tried to go buy flour today. There was no flour. So, in the sake of apocalyptic cooking, I thought, let's preserve something. We're gonna ferment something today, people. We're making kimchi. I don't have exactly everything I need. I couldn't get a couple of things. I couldn't get ginger. I couldn't get the little tiny salted shrimps. But what this is gonna do is give you a good basis to start on and also teach you a couple of fundamentals about fermentation. The process of kimchi is lactic or lactofermentation. It uses natural lactobacillus bacteria that's all around us to ferment things, make them sour. The same process for sauerkraut, original old school pickles. It's how all hot sauces are started. So what you're gonna need right off the bat, you're gonna need Napa cabbage. You're gonna need a large jar, 4 to 5 green onions, 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. You need 2 tablespoons or 15 grams of rice flour. You need half a cup or 50 grams of Gochugaru chili flake, also known as Korean chili flake. If you don't have this, you could try using like a fairly mild paprika might work. I don't really have a substitute for this right away. You could try chili flake, but if you can get to an Asian market and get this, I recommend it. You need 2 tablespoons or 20 grams of fish sauce. You need half a cup or 100 grams of salt. This is fine sea salt. If you're using kosher salt, it's going to be a little bit less, maybe 70 grams. And then you need an additional teaspoon or 30 grams of salt. Oh, and you're also going to need a couple of mixing bowls, a small one and 2 bigger ones. When you go to pick out your cabbage, or if you're doing a lactoferment with any other vegetable, the first thing you want to look at is the quality of the vegetable you're using. You want to make sure there aren't any visible signs of rot. You don't want the leaves to be wilted at all. This one looks pretty healthy. Start off, cut it in half, and then into quarters. And we're going to cut about 2-inch pieces. The other half, you want to save a couple of fairly big leaves off the top. Shit. With your cabbage cut, it kind of gives you a look at the inside too. Same thing, make sure it's not rotten at all. You also want to look for any real visible signs of dirt. I actually don't wash this right away, and the reason why is that lactic bacteria we're after, or lactobacillus, you can wash that off actually, and you need that to make this work. Now that your cabbage is cut, you want to add all 100 grams of salt to that, and we're really going to take our time to work this in. This is doing 2 things. This is going to start to break down the cabbage. It's also going to help pull out any extra moisture through a process called osmosis. You're going to make sure that you get salt on every piece of cabbage, so take your time with this. This is where you can f this up. Your cabbage needs to sit in the salt for about a total of an hour. You can do this in a brine overnight, but I have found that for me, the texture I like, the salt content I like, this is my my favorite way to do it. So, while your cabbage is sitting for an hour, it's perfect time to have a beer or two. We'll just set that aside for a little bit. Meanwhile, we're going to make our actual chili paste. I like to grate my garlic for this. The smaller the better, so it disperses evenly throughout the kimchi. If you don't have a grater or microplane, mince it as fine as you can. So for those of you who like a lot of garlic and you're going to kind of change this recipe to your liking, that's totally fine. Just keep in mind that with garlic, as it ferments, it does get quite bitter, as well as garlic has natural preservative properties to it that can actually impede your fermentation. If you do too much, it can almost halt it entirely. It's also not entirely safe. It's like, well, it's a preservative. Yeah, but it only goes so far that you're going to allow malignant bacteria in as opposed to letting the lactobacteria thrive.
Food science.
To your grated garlic, you want to add your rice flour, and then just a couple tablespoons of boiling water. Give that a good stir. You want it to be a nice pasty consistency. Pasty, that's the pasty color. This is the pasty. Add your fish sauce and your chili flake. If this is too thick, which this is, you can add a little more water as necessary. You want this to be about the consistency of pancake batter. And that's right about where we want it. Cut our green onions. Get one on the floor. Nice little 1.5 inch long pieces. Cabbage is looking good. It's lost a lot of its mass when that bowl is mounted up here. While that goes for a couple more minutes, 100 grams of water and that remaining 3 grams of salt. I'm gonna use a chopstick because I think I'm cool. We're gonna give this cabbage a nice rinse. We don't wanna take all the salt off, but any of that residual salt that's on the surface that didn't really penetrate the cells, we wanna get that out or you just get overly salted kimchi. You wanna try to get any of the remaining water just kinda off of there. It doesn't need to be totally dry, but just kinda give it a good squeeze, good shake. With your cabbage rinsed off, give it a taste. There's still some salt there, which we want, but it's not overly salty. It's not offensive. So all your green onion. And then you want to add about half of your chili paste that we've made. This is where it starts to get a little messy. You have some gloves. Everyone has gloves right now, I've noticed in the grocery stores. Fun fact about latex gloves. If you wear gloves, but then you wipe them all over your face, and then you touch shit, there's no point in wearing gloves. I don't wear gloves. The bacteria in your hand actually kind of helps this process a little bit. Mix it in. Before you add the rest of your rice flour, chili, fish sauce mixture, you want to give it a taste. It's almost there. Just a little bit more. Right about where I like it. Let's talk about your fermenting vessel for a minute. A regular mason jar works great. You can wrap a cloth over the top, put a rubber band around it. I like these flip top kind of, I don't know what the proper name for this is, because it has an O-ring. Take it, put it over there, and then this isn't an airtight seal. This allows it to off-gas a little bit. It will bubble. That's normal. That's what we're looking for, actually. That's signs of bacterial activity. Make sure that it's clean on the inside. I wouldn't clean this with anything super sterile, like don't use bleach. And then we're just gonna pack all of this kimchi in there. Intermittently, as you fill it, like use the back of my hand and just kind of push it down. It sounds delicious. Gonna make sure you clean up the outside of your jar if you spill any, rim. And if you notice, I have a nice amount of space here. As this ferments, it will actually start to bubble and grow a little bit, not by a whole lot, but if it's right to the top, it can spill over. Not a huge deal, but it can get a little messy. You wanna take that leaf or two of your cabbage that you saved and put it over the top. And then that little bit of brine that we made, just pour it to cover. Now we're gonna let this sit out at room temperature for about a week. You can go upwards of months. There are monks in parts of Korea that make kimchi that go for 2 to 3 years. They do it in big clay pots that are buried in the ground. It's super cool if you're into that kind of thing. But in about a week, this will start to develop a lot of flavor. You will notice signs of lactofermentation. We're gonna tuck this bad boy away. Oh, hold. You don't just want this sitting in your cupboard not knowing what it is. Now we can put it away. Here we are, about a week later. You have some nice bubbly signs of fermentation. That's that lactobacillus at work there. A little bit of funk there. Peel back that little bit of cabbage leaf. We always taste, right? It's a little bit sour, a little bit of funk there. Still really hot, but it tastes clean. When you do fermented things, if it doesn't smell right, it doesn't smell appetizing, something went wrong. It smells rancid, probably is rancid, and I don't advise eating it. The thing that I realize with fermented foods is, as a people, we've been eating this stuff for thousands of years before we'd even been like, that's fermented, or this is this. Just the way that we did things. It's the way things have been preserved. So in a way, that's kind of ingrained into you that you don't even realize if it's bad or not. It's how our ancestors survived. So trust your instincts. The warmer environment this sits in, the faster it is going to ferment. You can ferment this for much longer than a week. You can go a couple of months. This is a pretty straightforward, no-nonsense kimchi recipe. Don't tell me it's not authentic, please. Define to me authentic kimchi. Because up until the 1800s, they didn't have red chili flakes in Korea. So bam, knowledge bomb. But this is a good base recipe. Add daikon, add shrimp paste, add little baby shrimps, whatever you want. I will put my gasket back on. This goes in the fridge. This will keep for 3 to 6 months in your fridge. If you like learning about some fermented food, let me know. We can do another one. I'm getting pretty low on hot sauce. Can't wink. Anyways, thanks for watching. Happy apocalypse.